So, hello to our listeners. Here we are in our second Edubate. Here are your hosts, Emilia Borges and Ruth Hofre.
Ruth.
Today we have a deluxe guest, Dr. Bryn Jones Square. So, welcome to our podcast. Dr. Jones, please tell to our audience what do you do and what is your line of research?
Absolutely. I am so thrilled to be here. I just wanted to start off to say how much I adore Amelia, one of my star students. When we worked at Bishop's, honestly, like everything she said in class, I was like, oh my God, yes. And like essays were brilliant, like so insightful. So I'm just thrilled to be here. But yeah, so I'm a professor in literature and climate change at Mount Allison University in New Brunswick, Canada. I do a lot of work on interdisciplinary approaches to literature, so how literature can make us more pro-social, make us more feminist, encourage us to sort of be interested in human rights and that sort of thing, and how that's really sort of grounded in neuroscience, how our brain actually changes as we read literature and can increase empathy because it increases perspective taking and like allows us to imagine what it's like to be in another person's situation. So yeah, very much in love with what I do. I did my PhD at Oxford in the UK. And lots of feminist stuff. So my master's thesis was on the feminist mother of feminism, Mary Wollstonecraft, and then my dissertation for my PhD was on Mary Shelley, her daughter, also feminist as hell. Am I allowed to say hell? um, so yeah, I've
Yeah.
been a professor and working on some articles and books. So anyway, so excited to be here. And yeah, Amelia was telling me too about the Ministry of Women and Gender Equality. So I can't wait to talk about that more and any like sort of equivalence in Canada. So thank you again. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, so now Ruth will give you a little bit of context and the main info about the Ministry of Women and Gender Inequality or Gender Equality here in Chile. So let's go, Ruth.
Okay. The Ministry of Women, it was created in 2015, and it has three major functions, which are the, of course, the rights of women, um, the the equality of rights between men and women, the no discrimination against women, and to promote um, to secure a secure good treat in favor of women. And also it was with coordination with some other ministries and defense and social justice and all that, try to ensure that the women are well cared. They're also uh, talks about a little bit about the violence against women, that try to stop that, try to defend that, and try to like eradicate that and avoid that happens again and again. And for that reason, the ministry it has another organ that it functions to start to get in like the education, the commercial about violence and all that stuff. And it tries to also not only secure the rights of women, but also try to have like the same um, rights, and also that they try to comply with their obligations in terms of they take care of their children, they take care of their jobs, the same participation in the political life, the social life, and they try to be as much as they can do in terms that they have to help women um, being like inclusive in all those different aspects. Like for example, that they have the same amount of money that men, that the same healthcare system and all that, that they try to be equal in all those terms and all the
Okay, that's
yeah,
awesome, Ruth.
Amazing. Yes.
So now your
yeah,
question.
yeah. uh, so uh, dear Jones, we are aware that the political system in Canada is different to ours. But any institution or government departments that are aware of this stuff of women's, of take care of women's, or know that they're similar to the Ministry of Women as here we have.
Yeah, such a good question. Also, it's so cool that, yeah, Chile is like the first South American country to implement a feminist foreign policy, which I think is so amazing. So there's like a similar, but not the same in that it's more, so it's called the Women and Gender Equality, so WAGE. So it's a department of the government of Canada. So it was formerly called Status of Women. So it has a longer history. So I think it was 1976. It was founded, but in 2018 they changed the name to Women and Gender Equality. But really similar mandate. So advancing equality with respect to sex and sexual and orientation, gender identity or expression. So really important, similar priority areas too. So increasing women's economic security and prosperity, encouraging women's leadership and democratic participation. Also lots of international collaborative work, which is what I know that the Ministry of Women and Gender Equality is doing as well. But there's a difference, which I was looking into, is that we don't have like a specific kind of law. So I know Chile has kind of like, what is it called? I'm just double checking my notes. So law 21-369, right? And so there's that law. So in Canada, we don't have like an overall federal law. But yeah, really similar things going on. But what's super interesting and relevant is you probably maybe know, so Canada elected Mark Carney in 2025. So he took office in 2025. And then what happened was he actually chose to eliminate the Minister of Women and Gender Equality. And so in response to that, all these like feminist organizations in Canada wrote an open letter like, what the heck are you doing? We need this. I think this
Uh,
quotation is so key. They said, gender equality is not an afterthought. It is the backbone of a strong economy and a resilient society. Woo! And in response to that, Carney actually revised his approach and reinstated and restored wage as a full ministry. So evidence that like female organizations, feminist organizations can actually bring about change. So I think that's the most similar organization in Canada. And the feminist organizations that were part of that, we have the Canadian Research Institute for the Advancement of Women, Women's Shelters of Canada, Action Canada for Sexual Health and Rights. So similar, but I think what's so cool about where you are too is this sort of the newness of it and the like the sort of foreign policy that's going on and the international collaboration. So anyway, so amazing, and I'm just so excited to talk to you about all of this.
yeah. Okay, so as my friend Ruth says,
Mhm.
we have this Ministry of Education that, or Ministry of Women, but that collaborates with other like state offices and departments.
Totally.
And one of the biggest, I think, uh, winnings or the big win of the
Yeah.
Ministry of Women and Gender Equality was that the enforcement or the thing is that they make this law for tertiary education that are universities and colleges that regulates the prevention, the investigation, and the sanction of sexual misconduct. Because before that, this decree, a lot of universities has protocols in place, like their own uh, protocols and sanctions and investigation protocols, and they aren't like as serious and thoroughly revised, and it wasn't like something nationwide. So this law was presented in 2021 by the Ministry of Education and was endorsed by the Ministry of Women and Gender Equality. This law basically what says it's that there are many types of discrimination, and also there are others like sexual misconduct. In this case, they go further and they describe that you can't be discriminated only verbally or physically. They're also they put inside this list of sexual misconduct and abuse all the social media things, like the telematic things, the violence in video conferences, in lectures, in everything. So until then, there were a lot of incidents that passed between the lines, and nobody cares because they weren't described in the universities and colleges like protocols. So the main characteristic is that for an incident to be considered sexual harassment or discrimination is that usually it's unwanted and unconsented, that impact the human being in every aspect, could be emotional, the physical, the dignity, or the basic rights of the victims. So basically this law, what make it so novel was that described every type of sexual misconduct and discrimination. And the idea of this is that this law oblige the different schools to implement campaigns that, in a way, they search or they are aimed at promoting like respectful and constructive relationships inside the schools communities. And usually they need to have a clear protocol. For example, if you have an incident, you need to be able to complain formally and in a way that your identity is protected, and you need to have certain uh, like you need to be able to complain. You have the right to an investigation, a formal investigation that usually is led by the faculty officials. And usually all universities need to have like a gender and women rights organization or office that need to investigate and support the victims, not only in the psychological thing. There needs to be in place also a legal help in case that this it's proven and it's in a way public and needs to be in a way sanctioned. And it's different because there are the protocols that need to be inside the school, and there are the actual laws, the country's law. So uh, needs to be investigated in the university protocols and everything, but needs to be in case something criminal has happened, needs to be informed to the authorities. So it's quite interesting because you have the that the tertiary education institutions need to have protocols to prevent, to investigate, and sanction sexual misconduct. So this is um, kind of, in a way, uh, um, a law that it's aimed to ensure that victims have reparation in a way. And I don't know if in Canada you have laws like this, like
Mhm.
decrees, or can be nationwide, can be in your school, because I know that it's not the same political system. So, are there any laws that oblige tertiary education institutions to have protocol to prevent, investigate, and sanction sexual misconduct in Canada?
Okay, so yeah, that's just wonderful, by the way. Again, super pioneering and exciting that that's what's going on. Um, so we don't have like an equivalent specific law in Canada that's like specifically targeting gender discrimination in universities. So what we have is like a broader framework. I like your idea better, of like human rights protections, but across all sectors. So Section 15 of the Canadian Charter for Human Rights and, sorry, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, for example, ensures equal protection and benefit of the law without discrimination based on race, national, ethnic origin, color, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disability. And then Section 28 guarantees that the rights applied equally to men and women. And then the other one that I can sort of think of that's equivalent is the federal human rights legislation. This is part of the Canadian Human Rights Act of 1977. So in this, they say all Canadians have the right to equality, equal opportunity, fair treatment, and an environment free of discrimination on the basis of sex or sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. So I think it's really pioneering and amazing, what's going on where you are, just because here we don't have sort of this specific law. It's more, yeah, this broader framework. And
Yeah.
then something like, so Mount Allison University operates under New Brunswick provincial jurisdiction versus federal oversight. So rather than the federal government having oversight, it's just
Yeah.
based provincially. So Mount Allison has something called the sexualized violence policy. And then we have like the equity, diversity, and inclusion action plan. So I think again, like what's going on where you are is amazing, and that Canada can learn from what's going on there for sure. Because, but yeah, that's the most equivalent that I can
And
find.
and we also, what is trying to be enforced here in Chile, it's that like a legislation, or I think in a way the justice need to be with a gender perspective. Here we have like this um mechanism in our justice system that for a little bit of time that it's like in the law that if a victim or a person that in a way not complain, but in a way has a formal uh, like complaint to any like authority, that needs to be believed. So if there is a victim that says, or especially a woman, it's mainly aimed to, in a way, uh, protect women. If a woman says, okay, a man or anybody have a sexual misconduct with me, or I have an incident, needs to be believed, needs to be investigated, needs to be in a way protected. So it's quite uh, in a way innovative, because it's like,
It is.
okay, it's in the law that if anybody says that someone did something related to sexual misconduct, needs to be investigated, needs to be follow up, needs to be, and if it's proven with evidence and everything, needs to be in a way sanctioned.
Yeah.
That's like in the justice, needs to be with a gender perspective. And for some, I think some legislators and some politicians is quite, in a way, uh, the this system of justice that victims need to believe by all costs. Sometimes it's seen like, okay, what happened if the complaint is not real, or what she's saying is not real, but it's for the social or the justice system right now, it's better to believe and to investigate than not following a, a complaint or I think a legal thing without. It's better to believe and then prove that it's wrong that don't investigate at all. So that's our social system right now that needs to be with gender perspective. So that's quite innovative for Latin American countries as well.
Yes.
So that was our kind of more low part of the podcast, like inform a little bit what
Mm.
happened here in Chile. We advanced so much in a lot of women rights and
Yes.
laws and everything, but we still need to accomplish so much more. And now we're going to pass to the section of the podcast that is uh, the guest interview. So now Ruth will make the first question for you, Dr. Jones. So, Ruth, do you have the first question there?
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Jones, what sparked your interest in learning like literature?
Ooh, great
What makes you
question.
yeah, what makes you decide to become a literature teacher? Can you tell us and tell us the audience?
Of course I can. Also, just briefly going back, like that's so amazing. Again, that sort of innovative approach, and I find that just wildly exciting and cool to learn about it. So very amazing. I didn't always know I wanted to be a professor. I was deeply anxious as a as a young person because I'm still kind of young, and didn't think I could ever get up in front of a group of students and speak. I was most excited about, like, I was curious about everything. I wanted to know, why things were connected, and if I read a book, what connections there were between what I was reading and the world outside. So it was basically just like curiosity and research. But it was actually like not until I finished my PhD, I had my first teaching experience that I was like, I do want to be a professor. And it was meeting people like Amelia that were just so smart and engaged and who cared. So that was really what did it for me, was just being around people who loved ideas, who loved discussing ideas, who loved debating ideas and didn't feel uncomfortable giving different opinions. We're in such a polarized society right now, and it's like hard to, people are very strongly opinionated on one side or another. And what I love about literature is this ability to argue and debate and question things, but in a civil civil way where you respect everyone else's opinions and perspectives, you take on new perspectives, you gain empathy. So I think that's what really did it for me. Also, I love reading desperately with my cats beside me. So I think that was the main thing, though. The A was just curiosity, loving to write and do research. But what kept me in literature and teaching was the students and meeting people like Amelia who blow my mind.
So, yes, so Dr. Jones, I remember your literature classes with a lot of were good memories, were awesome classes. And what I remember the most was like this connection with your literature classes were a little bit gender studies oriented.
Yeah.
So how are how you linked gender studies to your lit classes, because in a way you see gender studies and you see literature, and some people maybe visualize them as separate things. So how
Yes.
you connected them so brilliantly?
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. Um, yeah, I think everything is so interconnected once you like start really thinking about it. But I had the privilege of studying, yeah, Mary Wollstonecraft, Mother of Feminism, I mentioned earlier. So she wrote Vindications of the Rights of Woman in 1792. And she started off writing like political works, like Vindications of the Rights of Men. But her career was bookended by fiction. So she wrote a piece of fiction, a novel called Mary of Fiction. So it's like fictional autobiography about women's rights and feminism. And then before she passed away, she was writing a book called Maria or the Wrongs of Woman. And she didn't finish it. She died before she finished it. But what it showed was that she felt that fiction, so literature was the most powerful medium for bringing about women's rights. So yeah, in the first one, it's sort of this autobiographical narrative about this female character who comes to realize she lives in a world of misogyny and is sort of like, what can I do in this world? And then the Mariah is this woman's in a madhouse. She's locked in a madhouse because her prick of a husband has put her there. She's lost her child. This idea of the madhouse and this sort of jail being a representation or a symbol for society itself, which is like a prison for women. So that is kind of what got me into combining women's rights, gender studies with literature was Mary Wollstonecraft, because that's exactly what she did. She was a polemical writer, very political, but then again, bookended her career with fiction because she kept saying that like the best way to bring about change is through imagination and through encouraging people to take the perspective of others. But it's also it just feels like it's just a natural thing, right? Like if you're reading fiction is inherently about sort of changing minds and sort of changing emotion, encouraging us to sort of take new perspectives and care. So, but yeah, Wollstonecraft in particular was the real clincher for me.
And also, I remembered that you used to teach the Jane Austen classes as well.
Yes.
So I remember that you linked quite well the Jane Austen books with the feminist perspective. So I really like that also, that you encourage us as students, this is a personal experience, to see characters with the lens of the time that they were written, but also with the lens of a more feminist and a more, I think, outside the box kind of um, way. And I really like that as well. You know, how you take classic characters, for example, like Dorian Gray and the Jane Austen thing and Orlando, and you presented, okay, yes, was like this, but can be interpreted in so many ways. So I think that's also quite interesting. So now, Ruth, it's going to ask you a question.
Before
Continuing with,
Ruth asks a question, can I say one thing about, because that was so perfect what you said about, because what I love about
yeah,
Jane Austen is a lot of people are like, they talk about how she has more of a sneaky feminism and she's not overtly, and lots of people are like, oh, she's just writing about manners and sort of rural life and this sort of thing, when in fact she was deeply feminist and hilarious and satirical. So anyway, I just wanted to say how much I love that you brought that in. But okay, Ruth, go for it. Can't wait for your
yeah.
question.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. What concrete action as a teacher are you taking to foster gender equality in terms of planning, in terms of activities, maybe test, evaluation, etc., etc.?
Such a good
Your question.
question. Well, it's been really, I feel really lucky to be at Mount Allison. So they have these, it's called spring into teaching and fall into teaching. So these like sessions with teachers where we talk about different aspects of pedagogy. But particularly there was this panel on misogyny and sexism in the classroom. So they have, I was supposed to speak in the spring one and couldn't, so I'm speaking in the fall one now, but it's professors getting together and talking about their experiences in the classroom with misogyny and with both student experiences and professors' experiences. And sort of, yeah, what we can do to fix things. So there are professors as well that kind of that not kind of that really do experience real misogyny when they're trying to teach. And I know that is equally difficult for students in the classroom. So the next step is in the fall panel is to include students in it to sort of see what's the professor experience and then what is the student's experience. I'm curious, no pressure to respond because this is your podcast, but for you two, how are your experience, how have your experiences been? Do you feel like you've had opportunities to like talk about your experiences? No pressure to respond, but I would love to know how you've experienced that.
Uh, for example, in my case, I think that what I like a lot about our faculty is that usually in my case I have the experience of okay, it's open doors. If you
Good.
have a problem with with certain teacher or etc. In my case, we have this protocol that obviously we first try to talk with the teacher, and if you don't have like this as a satisfactory solution or else, you can go to the head of studies. And here it's not like we have the figure of the dean. We have a head of studies in
Oh,
our
interesting.
career, and we it's kind of close to us in the sense of usually the head of study teaches
Oh, no
classes.
way. No way.
So
That's so cool.
in our case,
Yeah.
both of our head of studies that we had, both of them they teach. So you see them around. So it's like if you don't, if you have a problem with a certain teacher and you talk already to the teacher, and the teacher didn't give you a solution because it's not in the scope or of their attributions, you can talk to them. And as it's good in the sense of okay, you have a problem, you have something, or you have a doubt, or if your teacher can solve it right away, you can talk to the head study. So it's quite good. And I never felt in terms of misogyny and everything, I didn't have episodes of that as a student, and in my practicum I didn't also, so it's quite good. But I don't know, Ruth, if you want to share something.
Yeah.
No
Thanks,
pressure.
Emilia.
Uh, mm, no, I don't remember like any like episodes like that.
Mhm.
I think that I don't like remember. I think that there are not like longer anymore. If they existed, they are not longer anymore. So
Yeah.
they are changing like perspective and their minds and everything.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
I don't remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Oh, thank you
maybe
both.
in our faculty they weren't like mediatic incidents,
Yeah.
but in our school, for example, in psychology happened once that a student had a bad experience with a guy, and was very like, it was a classmate, I think so, and this girl complained formally and obviously for the right channels of the university. And because some of the incidents didn't happen inside the university couldn't, like, the faculty of psychology can't investigate, couldn't investigate at the moment. So was this, I remember this big
Mm.
protest.
Yeah.
There were a lot of women organizations that were completely upset about it because everybody knows that this guy was bad, and and it was in all over social media. So
Yeah.
it was like, because inside the faculties the protocols are different.
Yep.
So I don't know if the protocols are the same in English pedagogy and in psychology, but a few of this episode has passed. Like, and when they break up, like, and everybody knows about it, and it's like uh, in the public knowledge, usually the feminist organizations inside the same careers, they are the ones that tend to pressure the faculty and everything. So
Yeah.
in that sense, when the university declared that it's out of our hands, usually the feminist organizations and the, I think, the the student council of every, because here we don't have, we have a student federation that it's like the representatives of all careers, but we have at faculty level our student councils as well, that they are part, and usually they work with the student federation. But and they work in these protocols because they have a gender office and a women rights office. So all of these things, when they happen, that they are not common, but when they are big incidents that they are made public, usually the students are like the ones that pressure the
Right.
offices and the same protocols to work. So in that sense, our university has protocols and have things. And at least in my career and in my case, I always feel safe
Right.
inside
Right.
university. I don't know Ruth if she in that sense feels safe.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't feel like any pressures or that, like any incidents of that nature.
Mhm.
Um, I do remember that case, and I'm remembering like the faculty of law. I think that they have like also issues with a professor,
Mhm.
and I think that they make a lot of protests. Women make a lot of protests for that, and I think that that professor left the faculty. But
Yeah.
more than that, I don't know
Mhm.
really.
No,
Usually
yeah, go ahead.
the usually what I remember were like cases, as Ruth says, in psychology, in law, in I don't remember if it was uh, like physiotherapy, things like that, are more common in the law field. That it's like more male than women, you know,
Mhm.
and in all these health sciences and all the healthcare careers usually are kind of these incidents. They are more common.
Yeah.
In education, they are not as common because
Mm.
in the case of our career, in we are not that much students. We are in the school. They have like physical education pedagogy, elementary school pedagogy, and English pedagogy. That are the three careers. And also for being like a kindergarten teacher, that are preschool teachers. Those are the education careers that are in our faculty. And we are like little groups. Here
Yeah.
in Chile, the ones who wants to be a teacher and wants to be inside classrooms are limited.
Yeah.
Actually, our um, every year they are, I think, 40 or 50 spots in English pedagogy, and every year, and they never get filled completely.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think less humans, less problems.
Yes, yeah.
I think.
Humans can be problematic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's so, yeah,
So
it's interesting too. I wanted to say that how amazing it is what's going on in Chile too is like when I was at, I won't say the university, but yeah, I've had issues with students, and I've approached people about it and been told, if I've been harassed by a male student, they're like, well, you should wear a wedding ring so that they think you're married and blah blah blah. And I was like, well, I feel like that's not the best way to deal with this.
no, it's like
Right? Yeah.
why we perpetuate gender roles,
Right.
because it's
Exactly.
like this idea of women like in the home and everything. It's like we fought quite um, a lot to be able to be seen not only as caregivers. So it's
Exactly.
like today they are engineers that they are female, they are politicians that they are female, teachers like in very important faculties teaching and everything, and also in law, in healthcare. There are a lot of more women referent in terms
Exactly.
of education, politics, and everything. So yes, today still it's hard to teach, and it's hard to be a woman still. But we advance so much now. We have more scholarships that they are aimed at women. They are these special like application processes for women at science schools like STEM and everything. So all those things are, and also there are these laws that they are making more friendly for women to study. So it's good. And I think like our last question is for our pre-service teachers that may be listening afterwards this podcast. Do you have any advice for those that are in training and that may be listening to this podcast? Any tips, anything you want to say to our fellow pre-service teachers?
I do. Definitely just do it. It's the most rewarding career in the world. And also, I think just listening to your students, respecting them, and like just being humble. Like I used to always feel like I had to know everything, So if a student asked something and I didn't know the answer, I'd try to like bullshit. And now I'm like, I really don't know. What do you think? Or we'll like research it together. So I think being humble, being able to admit you don't know everything, and realizing that there's so much to learn from your students. I think there's so much benefit cultivating real relationships with your students, getting to know them, getting to know what they care about, what their interests are, and then sort of adjusting assignments and readings to what really engages them and inspires them. So I think being really flexible is helpful. But yeah, mostly just being curious, loving to learn and share your knowledge, and getting to have students like Amelia. That really makes the job fun. But yeah,
That's
honestly, this has been the most fun, and I'm so inspired by it. It's been such a privilege getting to talk to both of you and to learn all of this. So much fun.
yeah. I really like uh, talking to you again, and uh, I think this is a big opportunity to, in a way, give our classmates that may be listening this from other years, especially the ones that they are starting their practicum this year, our third year classmates that probably will be listening to this. Uh, these insights, these ideas, these perspectives, and this information that it's quite in a way medular to our uh, practice. So Ruth, any last thought
So,
to close?
well, as you well said, Emilia, uh, that teachers now are changing the perspective, as you well said that there are women who are doctors, lawyers, teachers, and also they are like um, married and they have children and they do a lot of things apart from being a mother or a spouse or a wife. So they're showing that they can do a lot of things apart from that. They can be a lot of like support for their husband and their children and continue doing what they do. Continue being like a support for them and to help them to build the world that we are now.
Yes, that's
Beautifully
awesome.
said. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Uh,
women. Woo!
yeah, women, that's
Yeah,
awesome. So
yeah,
now, sadly, we need to close our
yeah.
podcast, and it's been an awesome experience to share with you, Mr. Miss Jones, as always. So now a little message for our listeners. So hit that subscribe button and leave a comment. We are going to read them and we are going to address them in the next podcast. So good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Mr. Jones, for your time. Thank you to our listeners. Don't forget to subscribe and share the your your thoughts in the comment section. And
Okay,
don't forget to put play to the next episode and see you next time. Bye
Will
good.
bye.
do. I will share it on all of my social media too. So when you're ready, send it to me. And yeah, this has been the most